All right, let's continue our conversation on Stoicism. Going through the moral letters by Seneca, and I have decided to skip letter 23 because it's an interesting letter, but I didn't really feel like I had much to contribute to that. Letter 23. I will just read you the first 3 paragraphs. From Seneca to Lucilius, greetings. Do you think I'm going to write you about how leniently the winter has dealt with us, and it was a short and mild winter? How harsh and unseasonably cold is the spring, and all the other nonsense people write when they are short of things to say. This is the case today still, I think. No, I'll write something that will benefit both you and me. What will that be? What else but to exhort you toward excellence of mind? Would you like to know what it is that such excellence is founded upon? It is this: don't rejoice in empty things. Did I say it was the foundation? The pinnacle, rather. Reaching the heights means knowing what to rejoice in, finding prosperity in that which no one else can control. Anyone who is enticed by hope is anxious and unsure of himself, even if hope is for something close at hand or not difficult to get, even if the things one hoped for never prove disappointing. Do this, above all, dear Lucilius: learn how to experience joy. Do you now suppose that because I am removing from you the things of fortune and think you should steer clear of hopes, though sweetest of beguilements, I am taking away many pleasures? Not at all. What I want is that gladness should never be absent from you. I want it to be born in your own home, and that is what will happen if it comes to be inside of you. Other delights do not fill the heart. They are trivial feelings that merely smooth the brow. Surely you don't think that every person who smiles is rejoicing? The mind must be energetic and confident. It must be upright, superior to every trial. There's a couple of interesting thoughts in this, I believe, and one of them is something that Epictetus goes into a lot of detail of. So it's the idea of be careful what you hope for. Because if you hope for certain things to happen that are not really within your control, then you are setting yourself up for suffering. Because after all, when you think about it, if you really hope that something is going to happen, but you cannot control that thing, and then it does not happen, which again is not within your control, it's within the control of others, so whether or not that thing happens, the result is that you start to suffer. You start to feel bad because you did not obtain that one thing that you were hoping that would happen, right? And I think that it's a difficult thing to do, because as human beings, we like to hope, we anticipate certain things, we like certain things to happen, but they don't always happen. For example, I don't think any of us thought in March 2020 that 2 years from that date we would still be suffering the effects of a pandemic, that we would still be in this situation, but we are. And although it is largely up to us whether or not we get out of that, the reality is that we probably won't get out of that. Not for a long time, because look at what's happening outside, right? But that's a different matter. What I'm trying to say is, I'm trying to take a slightly more positive approach here. A reality is that you can learn to enjoy things that are within your control. And those can be small things. And I have found that in my life, it's made a big difference to stop and actually appreciate certain things, which I didn't do before. It took me a long time to realize how important those things were. And I remember a specific instance that I don't recall if I mentioned it before. It's nothing big. In fact, it's something very small. But I remember at some point a concrete example of making a decision to enjoy a moment. And the situation I shall sketch. It was nice weather out, so it for sure was not winter. I want to say it was maybe a summer or a spring. and I was still in the Netherlands. I happened to have a dentist in Amsterdam, which was not where I lived or worked, but initially when I worked there, I got that dentist. I had an appointment, and I took the train from Leiden, where I worked, to Amsterdam, and I walked to the dentist, which, if you happen to know Amsterdam, it was on the Rozengracht, so this is the Jordaan area. I was walking to the dentist, and it's an older part of Amsterdam. Amsterdam is old to begin with, but it's an older part of Amsterdam, and it's quite a nice part. And I deliberately made the choice to sit down on a little square at the foot of the Westerkerk, which is a church that Anne Frank actually describes in her diaries, that she could hear the church bells from that specific church, from where she wasn't hiding. None of this is relevant. I'm just trying to set the stage. And I sat down on a bench. I got some, it's a Dutch thing. I got some kibbeling, which is a type of deep fried fish. It's very good, I think. And I had that, and I sat down on a bench. And this is something I didn't used to do. I would always have an appointment with the dentist, go straight to the dentist, go straight back, go back to work, do all those kinds of things. But I was a bit early, and I had maybe 25, 30 minutes to spare. And I sat down on that bench, and I ate my fish. And I took the time to not look at my phone, not read any emails, not do any of that, but just look around and relax. And look at people. There are many people. If you've been in Amsterdam, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of tourists. There's a lot to see. There's a lot of different people, a lot of different kinds of people. It's very interesting. And it was an amazing experience. And I had to force myself, which sounds odd, but I had to force myself to do that, because it was my nature to go to the dentist, go back, done. But I'm very happy I took that moment. And I've remembered that moment as, for me, a bit of a turning point in you can enjoy every moment. And when I was reading this passage from Seneca, that's what I had to think about. This was fully within my control. I could choose to walk on, or I could choose to stop. I could choose to have a snack, or I could choose not to. It wasn't the greatest kibbeling I ever had, by the way, because they heated it up in a microwave. I remember this detail because it was an important moment for me. But the outcome was great. Am I bleeding? Oh no, it's just ink, of course. So these are things you can do. Sometimes you can seize a moment and you can slow down. And when you slow down like that, you may notice all sorts of things start to happen. You get close to yourself, especially when you are alone, as that day I was. You get close to yourself because you are there with your thoughts and nobody else's. And that, I think, is a very useful experience, because it makes you be with yourself. And even if that is 15 minutes, 10 minutes, it can be a very interesting experience. And that way, you can choose to do something. You can choose to experience joy. And it's probably why I was triggered when I was reading this. Do this above all, dear Lucilius. Learn how to experience joy. And that can mean different things to different people. I can also, where I live now, I'm fairly close to the Rocky Mountains. I love going there, and I love to go hiking there and experience all the different seasons. It's completely different in summer. Everything is green, and there's birds, and there's all kinds of wildlife. Or in winter, where there is a lot of snow and it's cold and it's much more isolated, it feels much more isolated, and everything in between. But those two are moments that I'm in control. I'm not hoping for something to happen. I seek out certain things, being in such a place and experiencing, period. You choose to experience, you choose to hear and see and smell and feel everything that is out there. And that type of slowing down, I have found, has a tremendous impact on your mental life. And to me, it is incredibly soothing and calming, and I feel very much recharged after doing something like this. But very often in our lives, we don't do those things because we rush on to the next thing, the next appointment, the next this, the next that, and we don't take that time. And then when we do seek out happiness, we seek it in things to hope for. I hope to have a big house. I hope to have this car. I hope to have this promotion at work. I hope to have this, that, and the other. And not all those things may be fully within your control. And then you set yourself up for suffering. Because when those things do not happen, then you're left alone. And not in a good way. So there are smaller things you can do that I think are very helpful, very useful. And those things I think you can use to seek out pleasure in a way that makes you as a person grow. Those are my thoughts for this week. I hope this was useful. What do you do? What do you do to learn how to experience joy? What is it you do? I've always find it interesting to read what your experiences with these things are. For now, that's it. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you next week for more talk about Stoicism. Bye-bye.